Time to elevate. You're running on empty with Matt and Tony.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Running on Empty 2022. I'm Matt.
And I'm Tony.
And we're running on empty. And our first episode this year. Sorry for the delay. I had a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but we're back and we're ready to go. We've got some really cool interviews lined up for this year. Some of those are going to keep a secret. Some of them we might actually talk about on the show. But I think this first episode, Tony, we're just going to kind of go back and forth and talk about, things that have happened and what's happening and what could happen and just kind of see where we could go from there. So anything that you want to start with today?
Well, obviously, the global crisis going on right now is the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which has got a lot of people worried about potential World War III.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily see that happening, but I could see a scenario in which it does happen.
I see a couple scenarios, but I think that's why, organizations like NATO are kind of keeping the cards close to their chest right now, because we don't really know what could escalate this guy.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. See, I've been really unhappy with the media coverage of all this, and just to set out my position, I'm against all military invasions. And,
me too. Yeah.
Right. So the Russian invasion of Ukraine, I think, is immoral. I think it's illegal. Should never have happened.
Right.
But having said that, I mean, since the breakdown of the Soviet Union, Russia has always had concerns about the countries that were formerly in their sphere, if you will,
sure,
becoming members of NATO. That obviously Ukraine is on the border, and for Ukraine to be a NATO member and to potentially have American weapons, European weapons right there. You could see how not just Putin, anyone leading Russia would have concerns with that. And I think this is a part of this that has kind of like been left out of the discussion. I mean, by analogy, I was born at around time we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? When the Soviet Union was putting missiles in Cuba 90 miles off the shore of the US. And of course, JFK was almost ready to blow up the world over that, right?
Sure, right.
So, I mean, I always think it's important. So how would we feel if we're in Russia and Russia is essentially surrounded by NATO powers, right?
Yeah.
So I think if there's any rational policy from Russia, it would be that Ukraine should be some kind of neutral state.
Sure.
Right. Now, I don't think that's what Putin wants. I mean, I think he wants a puppet.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. But I don't trust the European Union. I don't trust NATO. I don't trust our own government. Right. So this is a very, very ugly, complex situation. The other thing that is interesting, a lot of people ask themselves, okay, well, if the Russian economy is so weak and the Soviet Union broke down, why is Russia still such a global power? Part of it is because of our oil and gas addiction.
Right.
Right. Russia exports a lot of oil and gas.
Absolutely.
Right. And I mean, if the world could find a way to take global climate change seriously and get out of its oil and gas addiction, then you'd see the leverage of Putin completely reduced.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to me, this all seems like cancel culture at its finest, if you will.
How's that?
Well, you've got, airlines are done with, having, Russians fly around. The banks are locked up. So that's, the ruble is now pretty much worthless. You can't download an app anymore in Russia on the App Store or the Google Play Store. New movies aren't even being released over there. They're going to completely isolate them from any new media that's coming out. So I think this is the first time both Democrats and Republicans, at least most Republicans, can be on the same side with cancel culture and doing this. However, the oligarchs over there who are getting their yachts commandeered and everything, they try to hide them in the Maldives and whatnot. They're getting all that stuff taken away.
Isn't it kind of funny though to watch these cable TV talking heads in the United States talk about Russian oligarchs, and they don't seem to realize that, like, in a very real sense, the United States is an oligarchy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it's very similar to, remember, like, when we were over in places like Somalia and the media kept talking about, oh, the Somalian military's got these warlords. Like, no, oh, I'm glad we don't have warlords.
Right.
Right. Thank goodness we don't have that. It's just so ridiculous to me. I mean, how much does Jeff Bezos make each day?
It's ridiculous.
$75 million a day,
something like that.
Yeah, conservative estimate.
Yeah.
Is he not an American oligarch?
Totally. I mean, that's our 1% is all of that.
Yeah, is all of that. So I mean, I hope after this Russia-Ukraine thing, if we're really concerned about oligarchy, we start like looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
All right, because we've got a huge problem with that. But Matt, how do you see this ending? I mean, do you see the Russia going in and taking over the country, installing a puppet government and will Ukraine become their new Afghanistan? Will it just be in there for years?
I seriously hope not. I'm thinking that, again, sanctions are good against them, but they're not like immediate. Maybe some of them are, but this is really hurting their people. I don't necessarily have a problem with the Russian people. I have a problem with the Russian administration. And until they can actually get in there and either defuse the situation or just take them out by whatever means they have to, I don't think you're going to see this end. I don't think the diplomatic stuff hasn't gone anyway. I just really hope I posted something on Facebook the other day, but it was a picture of Zelensky and his wife and his kids, and they're in this superhero makeup or anything like that. And it's just a family just wants to live. I mean, that's all these people want to do. And unfortunately, you got somebody on the other side who just wants to destroy. I mean, his mind is like stuck in this it's kind of like putting on a record and getting stuck at the first 3 seconds of it. It doesn't ever get off of it, and he's kind of stuck in this whole World War II. I mean, like, you take a look at, I understand people are getting killed and there's things getting bombed, but you take a look at it and it looks like old World War II footage and stuff.
Well, I mean, this is, again, the war has actually been going on for like 8 years now, right? I mean, the war in that Donbass region with the Russian separatists, and so it's, and thousands of people have been killed. And for some reason, the American and the European media just basically forgot about that. All right. Yeah, that war's been going on for years, and we are seriously implicated in that. And it's almost been forgotten. And it's so irritating, Matt, that, conflicts like this start and the major media treat it like it's in some kind of vacuum, right? that there's no historical precedent. Right. That there's nothing been going on. I mean, it was the same thing when Russia took over Crimea a few years ago.
Yep.
Right. Which had like a major military base, like a seaport. I mean, again, there's no way in the world would I ever defend Vladimir Putin for anything. Right. But does anyone honestly think any Russian administration is going to have NATO or the United States or the European Union control a military base in Crimea? Right. Again, we have to think of it in terms of, suppose China was setting up military bases on the Mexican border.
That would be a problem.
Yeah, that would be a problem. Right. But I think, when obviously the United States is the Roman Empire of the modern times. Right. And so it's very difficult for us to objectively look at the political grievances of other states. And it's more difficult to look at that when it's like a thug like Putin,
Right.
Right. But my point is, anyone leading Russia has got some legitimate concerns about Ukraine. Right.
This is
They
true.
don't want it to be a launching pad for United States, NATO, and European Union aggression.
Right.
Right. Now, again, that would never justify an invasion. I think all military invasions are illegal, immoral, and so on. But it's just, as you agree with me, Matt, that you watch this stuff on American television and it's like you're watching a freaking cartoon.
Yeah, I can't watch it. I mean, like I look at some headlines in the morning and I even have to watch that because you see a couple of these and I just get irate. So you really have to dig for, what's really going on and looking at like you said, the historical stuff as to what's going on. So you at least have a reference point of it. So I guess the short answer, I mean, if somebody gets to Putin, but whether it's diplomatically or by force, I think that's going to end this because everybody else is asking him to stop. I mean, everybody has said, look, we're done with this. You can stop now, but they're not going to. So
I don't know what the factions are in Russia right now, right? So there probably are some factions that would like the return to the glory years, right?
Oh, sure.
That, right? Let's bring back the Soviet Union. But of course, it's hard to do that because, and this didn't sit well with Russia, right? That after the breakdown of the Soviet Union, countries like Poland and then the Baltic states became part of NATO.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Russia interpreted that as being surrounded by the West. And what is the small d democratic opposition in Russia? Right. What does it look like?
He's currently in jail right now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so my thought. Go ahead.
No, but what do they want? That's the thing. See, I can't imagine that there's any faction in Russia that wants that country to be surrounded by NATO and the European Union interests. Right. But I'm not really sure what the interests are. Some people have raised the question, why didn't Putin do this invasion when Trump is in office? Right. And of course, the Trump people are saying, oh, because he was afraid of Trump. The more likely explanation is Trump was dismantling NATO.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't like it to begin with. So
yeah, I mean, Trump was essentially doing Putin's work in that sense, although he did end up giving the arms. I mean, he ended up getting impeached for it, right?
Yeah.
They ended up giving the arms to Ukraine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he wanted dirt, right, from Zelensky.
Sure. That was.
By the way, Zelensky, did you know that Zelensky was an actor before he became a politician? Did you know that?
Yeah, comedian. Yeah, he's like a comedy actor. And
a comedy actor, and he also was in a TV series where he actually played the president of Ukraine. Right.
Well, but
now he's doing it in real life.
And now him and his family are actually fighting, which is more than I can say for the former leader of this country, because he'd be hiding right now. I have to give him and his family and his people every credit in the world because what's happening there is an atrocity. And I just want it to stop. I mean, everybody wants it to stop.
So that's the thing. If Russia deposes Zelensky and puts in some puppet, I can't imagine that Putin would think that would quell the situation, right? Basically at that point, wouldn't you have to have a civil war at that point?
The
Ukrainians already deposed one Russia-friendly leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, what was the role of NATO? What was the role of the U.S. in that? It doesn't matter, right? The point is, I can't imagine how he thinks that putting a Russia-friendly leader in there by force is going to calm the situation. Now, maybe he doesn't want the situation calmed.
No, well, and the fear is, and this is what the NATO fear is that, okay, so what's the next country?
Exactly.
So this happens, and now a few years down the line, oh, we're kind of interested in Poland now. Hey, we're kind of interested in Germany now. Whatever the case is. I know Germany just spent $113 billion bolstering their defense because they don't want the same stuff to happen to them. I got friends in Germany. I got friends in Ireland and England, and I don't want to see any of this over there. So what I think that the solution is, how about we put that, the guy that this was the scary part about when I'll say the president before Biden. He basically, if you talked against him, he wanted you out of the question, out of the
Right.
argument. And that's what Russia does. Boy, we're going to have a democratic election. Oh, you're my opposition. Oh, we're going to throw you in jail.
Yeah.
Well, how about you give the people a chance to pick? Well, the people picked, and I picked for the people, and now you're in jail. That's the guy that should be the leader of the country, because wouldn't it be nice if Russia was just a nice place? Like, I know Bill Maher had said it on his thing, Trump played, nicey nice with Russia and everything, but years ago, it was always that, I remember being in school and, the Cold War and the nuclear threat and everything else. And it
Right.
kind of seems like we're back there, not necessarily at that level, but why can't we just, give peace a chance? Why can't we get along? I don't even know if that's possible with them, but
Mhm.
do you think, or have you seen any evidence of our country actually trying to, make them an ally versus, we did it with Japan, we did it with Germany. I mean, I know Russia's a little bit more difficult, but I think we can do it.
Well, remember, right? We had that 50-year Cold War conflict, right?
Mhm.
With the US and Russia as the two global superpowers. And then after that broke down, I mean, I think the mistake the United States made after the Soviet Union broke down was to essentially declare itself the winner.
Right.
Right. And I mean, that would have been, I think that when the Soviet Union broke down, that was an opportunity for Europe and the United States to engage in the same process that the Soviet Union had engaged in under Gorbachev, right? Which, what did they call it? Glasnost.
Yep.
Opening, right? Look at your past, right? Try to reform. Instead, what we did instead, we said, no, capitalism is triumphant.
Yeah.
Right. And that's probably a concern within Russia, right? That
Yeah.
ultimately the West wants to control the oil and the gas.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're not stupid. They've looked at what's gone on around the world where American military has been involved. There tend to be energy resources. And I'm sure there's a certain level of paranoia that we are next. And what's really kind of scary about this in many ways is you're starting to see this relatively strong alliance between China and Russia.
That's
and those are two nuclear powers.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it just seems to me that can't be healthy, right?
And China didn't jump on the sanction train either, so they're just like, no, we're just going to business as usual here.
Right. And the other thing that this has shown to me, Matt, is, and I've felt this way for many, many years, the United Nations, and I don't even know how this would happen. The United Nations has to be completely reformed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the idea that these 5 nations have veto power over everything.
Yeah.
Right. Is ridiculous. I mean, the United States has been using its veto power for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Back in the day, the Soviet Union used it frequently. Now Russia just used it the other day. Right. The world has changed substantially such that the voice of the entire world democratically should count for more than 5 so-called superpowers.
I agree.
Right? That the idea of the US, Russia, China, France, England, whoever's on the Security Council, the idea of them having unilateral veto power in 2022, to me, that's absurd.
Yeah.
And it's so much of like a 1946 mindset.
Right.
Right. And here we are in 2022.
Well, I never thought in 2022 we'd even be discussing the option of a war anymore. I mean, that just it seems so like last century, but you still got those people that want it.
See, that's the thing, because you can't get into the mind of a thuggish world leader.
No,
but I just can't figure out what Putin sees as the end game to this. How does this end well? The best ending that he can possibly get out of this is that somehow Zelensky remains in power and makes a commitment to not join NATO. But I don't see that happening. If anything, if anything, this invasion has solidified the resolve for them to become part of NATO.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
It's having the exact opposite effect, I think, that he has intended. But I don't think that he's like right in the head. Sure, he's leading a country, but take a look. We've got a lot of world leaders that aren't right in the head. I mean, we had one. And so until you can get past that, I just don't know. Yeah, there really is no rational. I mean, he's jailing his own people if they speak out against this. Kids, he put kids in jail because they took flowers saying we don't want this war. The kids ended up in jail. Okay. And if he's got the cops that much around his finger, I can't even imagine. He can obviously do worse. So, yeah, I think the way that I'm dealing with it right now is just, any possible way that I can do and show and share my support. I absolutely will.
Well, I want to put in a plug for my former student, Christiana Trapani.
Yeah.
Who runs people can Google it, Christiana and her husband, Nick. They run the Door County Candle Company in Door County, Wisconsin.
And they can't keep up with orders, and that's awesome.
And so far, I just was reading it on social media this morning. They've so far raised about $80,000.
Oh, that's incredible, man.
And they're selling candles. And anyone can go to Door County Candle Company. It'll take them like 2 to 4 weeks to get you one because they're so backlogged.
Sure.
On orders for these. Christiana is Ukrainian by birth and identifies heavily with her Ukrainian heritage, and she's got her family helping out with this. They're spending literally entire days doing nothing but making candles.
That is so awesome.
That's just amazing. And 100% of the profits from these candles are going to support a humanitarian relief organization.
That's awesome.
Out of Ukraine. So that's that's really great. Why don't we maybe close out by talking about what we have in store for 2022? I know we want to get back into that Wisconsin Senate race.
We're definitely going to get in there. I know we have a couple of interviews with regards to that are going to be coming up. Crossing our fingers, Mandela Barnes is going to be coming on an episode really, really soon.
Yes, we did. Last year, we interviewed a number of candidates. Jillian Bettino, who we really liked.
Yeah. A lot.
And who I think is absolutely brilliant and passionate. She announced that she's dropping out of the Senate race.
Aww.
And she's, she just, I guess she read the writing on the wall. It's just that her campaign was not picking up steam. So now she's running for state treasurer, which is the position that Sarah Godlewski is currently in, who is also a U.S. Senate candidate. So to me, it's looking like Mandela Barnes, who we will interview on the show. We're going to have to get him soon. I think Mandela Barnes, Sarah Godlewski, and Tom Nelson, I see those three as being the three with probably the best chance at this point.
Yeah, I started seeing more Tom Nelson, ads and whatnot out there. And I started getting a few things from Shantia Lewis as well.
Yeah,
so
she's still got that campaign financing issue in Milwaukee that has not been resolved.
I hope that can go
But
away.
if she can get that resolved and taken care of, I'd put her right back in there.
I'd really liked her. I really do.
It's hard to win an election when you've got any kind of scandal over your head, right? So let's hope that gets resolved. Because I liked her. I thought she was a great
Unless you're running for president, then a scandal doesn't matter.
You're right,
anymore.
right. Exactly right. But that's Nelson, and we'll have him on again also if he'll do it. But Nelson recently has started to be more critical of Mandela Barnes. And I think he's calculated that the only shot he has to win is to, basically call out Barnes.
Yeah.
Basically what the issue is becoming is who is the real progressive, because, in Democratic Party primaries, there's often this debate about who is the most progressive candidate.
Right.
So you have Alex, I should put Alex Lasry in there too. We interviewed him. Alex is spending a lot of money. He's the only one who's done TV ads so far. And I think Alex is trying to kind of set out on the so-called moderate lane.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then I think that Godlewski, Barnes, and Nelson are all trying to be the one in this progressive lane. Yeah. And I think in Wisconsin Democratic Party primaries, the candidate perceived as progressive can really do well.
Mm-hmm.
right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, and seeing who their competition is going to be on the other side, we got to have somebody ridiculously strong, charismatic, likable.
Ron Johnson, the incumbent Republican. What's really so fascinating about him to me, and I've been in Wisconsin, as you know, for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a candidate that makes no effort at all to reach out to the other side.
None whatsoever.
I mean, everything out of that guy's mouth is utter contempt for Democrats.
Yeah.
And what I find odd about that is, you and I know, there are quite a few Democrats out there. They used to call them Reagan Democrats, right? They're more conservative Democrats.
Yeah.
These are people who will vote for a Republican. But
yeah.
I don't think they're going to vote for a Republican who starts off the campaign basically saying everything about the party is garbage, or they're all radical socialists. So, I mean, I've never seen this before, Matt. I've never seen anyone who starts off the campaign with what seems like utter contempt for pretty much half of the population of the state.
Yeah. Well, and he's not primarying, so he can say whatever he wants.
Yeah.
It's
just, but if I were him, if I'm not facing a primary opponent, I would think that would free me up to be very conciliatory toward everyone. Right. Instead, he's running the campaign as if he is in a primary. Now, maybe that's what his fear is, right? Maybe his fear is that if he's not that divisive, then the Trump people would run a candidate against them. That's the only thing I can figure, is that the Trump faction is now so powerful in the Republican Party that there's no room for a so-called conciliatory candidate.
It would be really nice if we had one. I mean, I know politics has been going downhill for the longest time, and it hasn't always been friendly, or ever really been friendly. But there were times, when I mean, it's frustrating because there is no other option at that point. It's like if that's the side that you're on, this is your only choice. And I don't think it's, not to really stand up for them, but that I think they need a choice, because the choice that they have is definitely not a good one. And then I don't know. I would think that I would hope that the Republicans in Wisconsin then can kind of see that you don't just vote straight party when the guy that, that's running your only choice is a total whack job. And then there's some people on the other side who are actually trying to make a difference. But it just seems that politics now is, well, if you're an R, that's all you are. And if you're a D, that's all you are. And,
well, this is a race that the Democrats really should win by a landslide, but it's not going to happen. Instead, it's going to be razor thin.
Yeah.
And there's so many scenarios in which the Democrats could lose it. So many scenarios.
So what do you think is the best possibility for the Democrats to win this race?
High voter turnout.
Yeah.
Especially given that the Republicans are doing everything they can to put up obstacles to voting.
And that makes sense. We can't win, so we have to cheat.
Right. So the Democrats have to do whatever they can to make sure that everyone is well educated as to how you vote, given these attempts to make it more difficult for you to vote. I think they need, they basically need to revive, I guess, what they used to call the New Deal coalition. Working people, senior citizens, students, right? People of color, right? Everyone. They need a big umbrella coalition.
If you
and they're going to need every single vote, because, like I said, the establishment, especially in the Republican Party, is making it more difficult to vote.
Yeah, I think that if you can mobilize the Gen Xers and younger, I think you can win this.
I think so too. But the problem is, well, one of the many problems, 2022 is not a presidential election year.
Nope.
And
it's typically always low turnout for those.
Right. And people under the age of 30 do tend, not all of them, but enough that it makes a difference, do tend to tune out in non-presidential election years. And that's a problem. So if I were advising the Democratic Party, I would say, you got to find a way to mobilize people, because you're not going to win. If we have a below average turnout for the midterm and the only people fired up are the Trump voters, that does not bode well.
So how can we use Running on Empty as a platform to get the word out that you need to vote? Maybe,
I think we're going to have on voting rights people like Jay Heck.
I'd love to have him back.
Yeah. We got to keep interviewing the candidates. Right. We should have on people that can talk to specific issues that are important to people, because so many people this year are going to vote on the economy.
Yeah.
And I think much of that is rooted in basically talking points about what's going on in the economy, right? It's now become like an element of gospel that the economy is worse now than it was 2 years ago. I'm not convinced of that.
I'm not either.
Personally.
I'm doing much better.
Yeah. I just had about 10 graduates talk to my current students. And what they all seem to agree on is that now is actually not the worst time to be getting into the job market.
Right.
There are jobs out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But listening to some of the, Biden's opponents, you would think that we're in a depression right now.
Nope.
No,
we're not.
I would like to see the Biden administration do more with the economy.
Yeah.
Right. But
I was going to say, our whole thing has been find your voice. We've already talked about that from the beginning. So how can we mobilize college students, the millennials, the Gen Y, the Gen Z, the Gen Xers? Why can't we, give that? Maybe I'm coming to Wisconsin sometime at the end of April. So maybe we set up a live whatever, and we set it up as a forum or a discussion.
Oh yeah.
Give us what you think is important. What's important to you.
Oh yeah.
That we can. And we could do it. We could just, we might get a bunch of people, I think we've got 33, loyal listeners on this, but if we could get a room full of people to at least start getting this out there, and, could they make the commitment to spread the word so people take action? It is important that this has to be, that Ron Johnson's got to go. Another crazy idea would be to interview Ron Johnson on this show and just make sure that the other side is just so upset with him because of what we know he's going to say, but I don't think he would. He wouldn't entertain it.
No, A, he wouldn't do it. And B, I don't even know what we could ask him. You see, the problem I'm having right now with so many Republican candidates is you have to ask them, who's the president of the United States?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if the debate is starting off at that level, you're going nowhere. All right. Well, Matt, my voice has pretty much had it. So we're going to have to bring this discussion to a close, literally.
Yes. Well, good stuff to talk about. Catching up on the current events. Looking forward to a really a great season with Running on Empty. Until next time. And
let's stay elevated.
Stay elevated, everybody. Take care.
Running on Empty with Matt and Tony.